because it seems to me that there's two separate issues about things like the Danish cartoons which get conflated. One is the question about should the cartoons have been published in the first place. Now, it seems to me any newspaper editor, anybody on a picture desk in a newspaper or a magazine, every day is presented with material where they have to make the decision, is this worth putting in the magazine or not? And I think we can also agree that maybe no two picture editors would make the same decisions. Some of them would print all those things, some of them would print one or two, some of them would print none of them. So on the one hand, you've got the argument about quality and so on, should the things be in the paper?
Yes.
Myself, I think that most of them were rather tedious, and the ones that weren't were actually the most offensive ones. I mean, the best cartoon was the one which shows suicide bombers arriving at the pearly gates.
Yes.
To be greeted by the Prophet Muhammad saying, "Would you please stop doing it because we're running out of virgins?"
Yes.
Now, that has the great merit of being funny.
That has a bit of bite to it.
Yeah. And actually, the one with the turban, the bomb in the turban, was similarly, a perfectly legitimate, strong, satirical point.
And well drawn.
And well drawn. And so those two, the ones that people got most exercised about, would actually be the ones that I would, if I was a picture editor, that I would have published, and many of the others were just beyond bland. So that's one issue. Would you do it, would you not do it? But it seems to me that there's the second issue, which is what you were talking about, I think, is what happens when the subject of violence arises. And at that point, it seems to me the subject changes. The subject is no longer about whether you should publish or not publish these things, but about how do you respond to violence.
Yes.
Do you respond to it with cowardice or courage? And at that point, it seems to me that every newspaper in the world should publish the Danish cartoons. Not because they like them, and not actually because they particularly want to insult Islam, but just to make the point that you don't give in to threats.
Yes.
And so I think sometimes, when people start talking about the cartoons as objects, were they good or bad, were they offensive or inoffensive, that's one half of the point. But the second half of the point is the question of the response to violence. And I think that's one of the things that has got very blurred recently. And one of the most, I think, mealy-mouthed pieces of language that has developed to justify this kind of behavior is a kind of reinvention of the meaning of the word respect. It seemed to me, when I was growing up, that respect meant that you took people seriously. It didn't mean that you never disagreed with them. To respect someone is to say, okay, we'll take on what you have to say, and if I don't agree with it, I will offer a counter-argument. The idea that it would be disrespectful to someone to in any way disagree from their system of belief is a new idea, is a new meaning of the term respect. And it seems to me to have nothing to do with respect. And what it actually means is I'm too afraid to do it. So what you have is cowardice masquerading as respect.
Turning now to our top story, the outrage in the Muslim world over caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad. Any depictions of Muhammad are
like being on the cutting edge of knowledge? The Bible...
Or is she?
But you will hear the screams of the damned echoing through your ears forever and ever.
A person that spends his time considering what God has done is just not impressed with...
Root of All Evil was a slick television program, edited and cut in the way that television programs are, as a sort of polished performance. But in the course of it, I interviewed a lot of people. The interviews often went on for a very long time. Later, I thought it would be fun to look... All hail Pete Starr. It seems that nothing terrible has happened to him. I don't know whether he comes up for re-election, but I don't think there's any suggestion that he's not going to get re-elected. It may be. You can compile lists of good people who are religious, bad people who are religious, good people who are atheists, bad people who are atheists, and that's not the point. The point is, does religious faith, blind faith, in what you believe, because you believe it, because you've heard it from an authoritative source in your culture or read it in an authoritative book,
Does evolution basically tell us what to do with our lives?
no, of course it doesn't. It's religion that tells us what to do with our lives, and it tells us wrong almost all the time. Especially, by the way, Islam, which not only tells you who to worship, it tells you exactly what to do every second of your life, actually.
Hi, Mr. Dr. Watkins?
Could you wait?
Yes, sorry. I'm so glad to be here to hear you talk, so thanks for coming. Just wanted to say that first of all. My question is, I wonder if you have any thoughts about, or maybe can speak to your thoughts on the future of theocracy in the United States, or if you have any opinion about that, or just kind of anything you'd like to talk about on that.
I don't live here, and it would be presumptuous of me as a foreigner to speak out on the question of whether the United States is becoming a theocracy. I think that certainly in the last couple of decades, maybe, certainly since Bush was not elected, there has been a palpable slide towards what could be an incipient theocracy. Perhaps that's coming to an end now. I think we may be beginning to see the beginnings of a groundswell of opinion in the other direction. Not surprisingly, in view of what's been going on for the past 7 years or so. So, on the other hand, it is perfectly clear that religion, especially the Christian religion, is quite outlandishly, extraordinarily influential in this country. The sheer size of